They try to forecast, and I try to beat that forecast.
She always tries to break the model.
I always try to break the model, exactly. So when they plan for like 15, 20% month-over-month growth, this month I'm like, okay, we got this. Let's do 40. Then they're scrambling in the back trying to keep up. Hair falling out, postpartum depression, whatever it is. We find the more we talk about those very raw, candid moments of parenthood, the more parents feel seen.
Supplier payment terms or supply chain decisions on where we're going to source containers or bring them into the UK. What does this all mean from a financial perspective?
Our first minimum order quantity, we're talking about a 6-digit investment in inventory before ever having sold a single product.
At the end of the day, we're all very competitive. So we grew 10x in 2024. We've had a really strong year this year. We've got bold plans for 2026.
On this show, we like to go behind the scenes. Product decisions, supply chain forecasting, etc. The things that founders really talk about. Welcome back to Treyd Secrets. Today I'm joined by Rima and Morgan, founders of Peachies, a next generation nappies or diapers brand built on a subscription model. They're growing super fast, are building a super loyal customer base, and managed to stand out in what looks like an unglamorous category where execution really matters. Big welcome to Treyd Secrets, Rima and Morgan. For anyone who doesn't know you yet, what is Peachies today?
Thanks so much for having us this morning. We're really excited to be here. Peachies is the premium nappy brand for contemporary parenting. We're on a mission really to make parenthood the most joyful of life's chapters. And we really believe that with nappies, you can actually turn a very commoditized product in a very boring space, as you said, and actually deliver to parents value that they never thought possible from a product or an essential good like nappies. That's fewer changes in a day, protecting their baby's skin health, and actually longer nights of sleep. And we are now fully UK-based today, and as you said, a subscription-based company. So we deliver to families subscriptions of nappies, typically every month, and also offer a unique, what we call nappy concierge service, which is white glove service for parents to be able to manage their nappies when they're, of course, living a very hectic lifestyle.
There's a lot to dig into there. Maybe we should just start, how did you start with this, right? What was the why or the problem that you saw that made you start in particular an nappies brand?
Maybe you talk a little bit about the why, and I'll dig into how we met.
How we met, yeah. Okay,
it was
great.
actually a coincidence in a way. I mean, a happy coincidence that we met. We were randomly matched together to run the Innovation Entrepreneurship Club together at Imperial Business School. So Imperial College in London, that's where both of us studied. And the nerds that we are, we just knew, we both grew up in family business environments. I remember, Morgan, you told me as well that you had a little lemonade stand growing up. I did the exact same, and in my parents' home, and just sold them every single thing that I could find in the house, resold it to them. And I think this is where this kind of obsession about creating beautiful things in life and great things that make people's lives easier comes from. And this desire to run a business at some point in our lives. I think we had little idea that it would happen right out of university, but we started with Peachies, and it was a joy. And I think one thing that
you decided the sexy category of nappies.
We love the fact that we're in the most unsexy category, and we're on a mission to make it sexy. And I think we've done that so far.
Very much.
But there's more to come, definitely. We've seen that nappies is such a commoditized space, and you can dig into this a bit more, but we really love the spaces that no one wants to talk about. And we see from a brand perspective, there's such a huge opportunity to disrupt what has been a very still, boring, what we call sad beige category from the, pun intended, bottom up.
Yeah. What's your particular insight as well? You were talking about fewer changes per day, for example. Was that the thing that made you start this?
So when we were very fortunate at our time at Imperial to have a lot of opportunities to pursue entrepreneurial ventures, let's say. So Rima and I, being who we are, we knew we would never join somebody else's team. We had to start our own thing. And what really struck us about the nappy space was actually thinking about friends and family around us who happened to be reproducing quite quickly at that time and continue to do so. Really, the initial kernel was thinking about my sister and thinking, okay, she's got 3 kids. what does she do first thing in the morning? Does she brush her teeth or does she change a nappy? And we knew even before thinking of her specifically, it was, if we're going to go down this wild ride that is entrepreneurship, we have to come up with something that we can be passionate about. We knew it wasn't going to be B2B software. It was going to be consumer products. Rima comes from a very design and background. Her family was in the furniture business. My family comes from water treatment and oil and gas, so very engineering heavy. But what we love about both of those things is that they're tangible products, and that challenge of bringing something tangible to life and creating a brand and a community around it that people gravitate towards. And so that was like, okay, so we know it's going to be consumer probably. So then who can we design for? Let's design for the friends and family around us. And that's where my sister comes into play. And, while thinking about her, actually, she does change a nappy first at that time. And why can't I name another brand besides the big market leaders? And then we just started digging into it. It's like literally Google searching, And I think what we find so often is people are like, how do you start a business? Like searching. That's what you do. Yeah. You have a question and you just keep digging into it. And we kept scratching at it and found that, our original concept of really going heavy on sustainability was actually wrong, because we found really early by talking to parents that parents truly don't give a shit how green something is if it doesn't work. And what we saw in the market was you either had the big box brands or supermarket brands that was all about a race to the bottom on price. And then on the other side, you had kind of eco-challengers coming in. But because they're so over-indexed on trying to deliver on green missions, they sacrifice product quality. Yeah. So if you got something tearing or not sticking on to the baby over time or not providing that performance you need overnight, you're automatically going to switch back and be frustrated. And that's where we found that new category, rather, with premium design. So investing in high-quality materials and the design and the fit of the products to actually unlock not only things like fewer changes or longer nights because we provide that premium performance, but unlock a lot of the sustainability pieces as well, because you are enabling people to change fewer nappies and ultimately send less to landfill. And so premium was our way to be distinct in a crowded space, but also provide parents with something they've never seen before in an essential goods category.
That's interesting. Essentially, like it's a trade-off where you have like cost, eco, and performance, and essentially sorting out like performance is number one, eco is number two, and cost will sort out, I guess, something like that. How do you then go about from that moment or insight of like, this is what's missing, this is what would help parents, to actually making that a reality? Because that seems like a huge sleep.
Yeah, it was. It was like a year and a half of product development of, we won our first grant funding from Imperial College from winning a pitch competition. I think it was 5K. And with those 5K, we were able to afford a flight to the US to sit down in a boardroom for a week with an industry expert who taught us every single bit about the industry. He had been in the industry, I think, 30, 40 years at that point, and he knew every single thing. And we're talking about a very complex product, right? So we have about 1,000 products coming off the manufacturing line a minute. So the engineering that goes into it is actually way more complex than you would originally think. And because we weren't from the industry, we really had to kind of upskill ourselves and teach us everything that we didn't know at that point. But it also gave us a certain humbleness or a certain a way to look at the industry with a different lens and a different perspective that so many that had been in this industry for so long didn't have. And so we literally sat down in that boardroom and tore every single product that we could find on the market apart and understood what materials we could pick that made a difference, both from a performance perspective, from an environmental perspective, from what do parents really value. And that continued. We did this for a year and a half, including all sorts of product development, meeting people from the industry, finding a manufacturing partner, finding people to support us, and build a brand that could really stand out. And I remember we were a completely different brand at some point and had a different brand name, different brand concept. And I was just not in love with it. And for me, it's if I can't get excited about something, how am I supposed to convince a parent or someone I've never seen? Or, when you do digital marketing, you actually don't have the direct connection to the parent necessarily. So how do you convince someone of a brand that they've never heard of to give it a try in the first place?
Yeah.
And so we knew, because our first minimum order quantity was so high, we were terrified to send anything into production.
I was just going to
without-
ask, like, how do you go from, because, I mean, if you're saying 1,000 a minute, right, these are enormous pulp and paper production plants, right?
Yeah.
And you're coming as a startup.
Yeah. So our first minimum order quantity, we're talking about a 6-digit investment in inventory before ever having sold a single product.
Yeah.
So we knew not only did the product have to be exceptional for parents to actually continue using it, because one thing is getting someone to try it for the first time. The other thing is what we talk about like every single day is retention. How do you keep a customer? But for us, the biggest learning was, if someone tries it out, the only reason why they're going to stick around is if they love the product and if they want to use it every single day. And because we're in a category where people actually use the product up to 10 to 12 times a day in the earliest stages, we knew it had to be, the nappies had to be exceptional in order for people to continue buying it.
Yeah.
And so we did early trials. We worked with hundreds of families. We tested the product. We did lab trials. We did blind trials, all sorts of things. And the earliest study, or the earliest research that we now also backed up with a big customer validation survey that we did recently that gave us some incredible insights into our customer base. We had a small part, or kind of a small version of that back then. And almost 100% of customers recommended us to family and friends and preferred our nappy over every single product or every single nappy they had used before that. And so that was kind of the moment where we knew we were onto something.
Yeah.
And then comes the, apart from product development and brand building, comes the part of how do you finance that? We didn't have it's literally our first company that we founded. So we didn't have a successful exit before that brought us millions that we could invest in a new business. So we had to really go out there and sell what was only an idea, and the brand concept and the product concept to, obviously you start with your closest network, but also, we're young founders. So that was limited as well. So we had to be really bold and smart and think very critically about how do we bring investment on board without diluting too early, too much, and so on. But we had to fundraise to be able to afford our first ever nappy, literally.
Did you have the Peachies brand? You're saying you switched. Did you have it already back then when you were fundraising, or was that later?
Originally, no.
No.
And actually a funny moment for Rima and I about really making that critical decision on, are we going to invest in brands? We closed our eyes. We're sitting on a Zoom call because back then we both worked remotely, Rima from Vienna and me from London, and it's just the two of us. And we're sitting there, I go, okay, let's close our eyes. We sit there, we close our eyes. We're like, envision a warehouse full of this brand. And we're like, nobody's going to buy it. So we took a gamble, actually, and we made a big investment for a company of that stage in brands and worked with a big London agency who's become one of our biggest champions, actually, and one of our best and kind of longest standing relationships to bring a new brand to life. And we were even delayed on our launch because we ummed and awed forever about the name and just couldn't find anything that really suited us. And then finally landed on Peachies. Yeah. And it was actually our second choice because we had filed a trademark application for another brand that we thought would get rejected or challenged. But then we were like, oh, wait, we like Peachies better. And it's funny how these things come together. But some of those early bets you kind of forget about in a way. And that's when you kind of realize these initial moments of being a founder and what it means to kind of take on risk. And changing the brand really early was definitely one of them, taking on this kind of going down this path of investing in brand, but also, of course, in inventory that we never knew if we were actually going to be able to sell it or not. Yeah. And we're going up against the most socially ubiquitous brand in probably the world of consumer products. And so, you have to be a little bit crazy, I think, and know you're onto something.
The amount of people that told us, I think you're completely crazy. I remember
Can be a good sign sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. We totally agree.
In those years of where we were working on product development, as part of that, I went to a trade fair in Geneva, and it was literally me and 30,000 men. It felt like I was the only woman on that show.
Bit ironic when we're talking about diapers.
Yeah, it is true.
It is, but it's
a very male industry, though.
Yeah, it's very.
Same with women's hygiene is actually as well.
Wow.
Yeah,
very similar.
And I remember speaking to a probably 60, 70-year-old guy who'd been in the industry for 40 years plus, and he said to me, I think you're crazy. I think no one is ever going to buy nappies online. And I was like, well, I guess we're onto something then.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's an important distinction between like confidence and knowing you're onto something and ego. Those are like two things that I think can be really confused. And I think Rima and I always try to like stay very humble and know that we don't have all the answers and look for people smarter than us around us. And like, I think I've really learned over this period that being a founder, one of your biggest jobs is filtering information. Yeah. It's like everybody's got an opinion, kind of like being a parent as well. Everybody's got an opinion, but how do you take all of those opinions or pieces of information and then come up with a plan and decide what you're going to listen to and what you're going to throw out? And actually that's, it's not about necessarily having industry knowledge, but it's about how can you hire great people and how can you filter information and then get shit done.
Yeah. What was it that made you actually come into yourself, I guess, in spite of all of that friendly advice that you're crazy and should stop, right? That made you, you must have felt or knew or analyzed that this is gonna work. Whether, was there a method or was it a gut thing?
Oh, we're big gut people.
Yeah.
We're big gut people.
I think it changes over time, but I like now we don't take decisions where we don't have solid data for. But I think the best decisions are made out of a combo of strong data and really good gut feeling. We really believe that listening to your instincts is always going to lead you down the right path.
And you also went for a subscription model, which I think is super interesting. It seems really attractive for a lot of, for everyone, right? Recurring revenue and you have lifetime value increases. Also seems somewhat challenging to crack. How was the thinking of going for that business model versus trying to sell to supermarkets or some other marketplace approach, etc.?
Honestly, it's thinking about the reason why Peachies exists, and that is to make parents' lives easier. And a subscription model in our industry just absolutely makes sense. It's a product that you know exactly for how long you're going to need it. You literally need a shit ton of them in a different size. We can estimate which size you need and for how long. And so we know exactly how many you're going to go through. And so actually delivering it every month reliably on a monthly subscription to our parents was part of our ethos to make parents' lives easier. And that's why we've decided to go down that route. And then, of course, after that comes, you realize, this is actually quite a good business model. And business model not only, coming from an ego-driven, I want to be successful perspective of let's make this business work, but also from a, so many times we talk about how we successfully can run a business. And one of the most basic things that so many people overlook is your cash flow. Mm-hmm. And how does your cash move through the business? And how long does it take you to pay a customer back? And you would think that this is like founder rule number one, but I think this is why so many people never get out of this fundraising loop and have to continue to fundraise until Series E. And then at the end of the day, have a big exit, but actually don't really benefit from it anymore because they literally own 3% of the company. And so for us, we also very quickly learned that a subscription model for us not only makes sense from a customer perspective, but also from a business perspective, because it allowed us to build a very strong and business that can very sustainably grow. And when I say sustainably, I don't mean you can still sustainably grow fast.
Yeah. And how does that connect like the cash flow cycle and the subscription model? Just like technically, what's the link of why it's better when you have the subscription?
Well, because you can plan ahead. You have a recurring revenue every month. Retention is a big focus of ours. We've literally, I think, doubled our retention rate in the last year with, simple things that you do, making customers feel seen, making sure our customer service that Morgan mentioned, our nappy concierge service really makes people's lives easier, make sure that, you have your product on time in the right size, next day delivery, all these things that are super important for us, making sure that works really well. And then optimizing your website, that's what I'm most excited about, and optimizing every single aspect of the business. But it lets you forecast much, much, much better.
Interestingly, I think there's of course a lot of upside with retail, and we very much have an omni-channel vision for Peachies. But what's so beautiful about subscription earlier is the insights you get. So the connection you maintain to customer with that direct link but also just having such granular detail and data that you can draw from. Whereas, and we're fortunate to be in that position, whereas if you go into retail, you're relying on them to provide you that, right? So you know how much product you're shipping them, you see sell-through rates, but you have to manage those supplier timelines, those invoice cycles, which for a small brand can make or break you. And I think we saw in the era of subscriptions, actually essential goods is one of the few areas it makes sense. And having that ability to build a foundation that's really strong where we know the ins and outs really well before going into retail. So we can go to retail and say, this is what our customer profile looks like. This is how often they purchase. This is their average basket size, and really build that strong case, but also have the brand awareness to be able to sustain what a real strong retail partnership looks like.
Yeah.
And so that predictability gives us a lot of leverage.
How do you forecast on a, say, per customer basis? I was having this, when I was going into the building this morning, I was, talking to the guy at the reception, and I was like, I'm so happy I'm going to talk to the founders of Peachies today. They built this cool, subscription brand for diapers. And I was like, yeah, my daughters have just had a lot of kids. And I was like, if they cracked like how to like not go and buy this all the time, and now I have wardrobes full because kids grow, right?
That's
So
true.
it seems like a really, challenging thing, obviously, for parents or grandparents in this case. And I guess that's an opportunity for you
Absolutely.
as well. How do you go about dealing with this? It's a rather complex thing.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's sort of twofold, I think. One is hiring great people. So we always laugh that our Lorenzo, who runs our operations, is the oracle, because I have watched him for more than 2 years nail forecast within single-digit percentages every single month.
Yeah, sometimes he's off by 2 boxes.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. And he just has a sense for how the business is growing and how people will matriculate through the sizes, because you're right. And actually sizing is the biggest challenge for us, because it's like with fashion, you may be a size medium in one brand and you're a large in the other. And then that discrepancy can have a major impact on your perception of the brand, how well they know you, and how likely you are to repurchase. Because unfortunately, of course, sizing errors in nappies typically means you're going to have leaks. And that's our biggest risk to losing people, right? So making sure we nail sizing, not only from how we educate customers into the pipeline to know when to switch or how to choose right from the get-go, but also how to matriculate through the sizes is really important. And we see actually, if you're in a retail brand, you don't get that connection, right? They're going into the store, they're buying something, you have no idea what happens after that. They may come back, but you don't even know, you don't have any foresight on that. But with a relationship with the customer, we can have that dialogue. So we're constantly feeding in information, whether it's through our sizing quiz that we have on our websites, or if it's, in the flyers we put in our trial packs, if it's your first purchase with us, that gives you tips and tricks on how to navigate sizing in a direct link to our concierge service to be able to solve any issues as they come up or ask any questions is really, really important. So the more we collect data on that, the more we can refine that model for how we suggest to you, hey, you've been in size 2 for 3 months. On your next order, here comes a pack of size 3, or this next size up, so that you can start testing it and see if it fits, because kids are constantly growing, as you said. And yes, there's a normal distribution of how you'll sit in sizes. So for example, you'll be in size 1 for maybe 2 months on average, and then size 4 you could be in a year. Your child could be in a year. And so there is a benchmark, let's say, but it's all dependent on every child and also how your brand fits. But that's where, again, this subscription, this data collection on how we drive those insights is super, super valuable.
Sounds like you need quite a lot of inventory.
We do.
This volume, and of course, all of these sizes. And I guess this is not a product where it's fine to run out.
It's also very true.
Right. So what's the math, roughly?
Yeah.
How many sizes do you have? How much inventory do you need to keep?
We're actually fortunate, though, because we went to market with only 6 sizes, which was all what you call an open nappy, so it tapes on the fronts. We've since launched in September 3 new sizes that are a pant version, so more like underwear. But actually that simplicity, we're not, again, like a clothing brand or home goods where you have thousands of SKUs. We have 9. And that simplicity is actually really powerful. You're right. Warehouses love us because we're bulky and take up a lot of space. But we are very clinical in inventory. We only keep about a maximum of 2 months of inventory in the warehouse.
Wow.
That's shaved down from about 3 months as we get more and more insights about how the business is growing and how fast we move products. But we've always been pretty lean on that side of things. And work very closely with our manufacturing partner to make sure that there's that alignment in terms of how we manage our stock levels and bring more across as we need to. So we try to keep it really, really tight, actually. And having a lower SKU count has been really valuable for that because we just have those insights and just a lot less to manage, even if we take up a lot of space.
Yeah. Have you ever had any hiccups or problems, or challenges in the supply chain?
Oh my God.
Stockouts happen, right? Like that's just the nature of the game. We always say that's like, if you're going to have problems, that's a pretty good one to have, as opposed to a warehouse full of nappies nobody wants to buy. So it does happen, but we have gotten so much better at it, and the gaps between them have been much, much lower and fewer. So I think the biggest we ever had was in one size about 2 months. That was pretty painful. And I think such a scarring experience for all of us that we were like, oh my God, never again. But you learn, and it's inevitable. It will happen again, I'm sure. But that's the biggest hiccup, because then you have to manage customer expectations. And understandably, we have a very highly emotive customer base. We're talking about many times new parents. I mean, and this is, as we've said, a good you need. It's not like a hoodie you're happy to wear or wait 3 weeks for, So we have to balance that. And so it does happen. And, containers are late because of weather on the Atlantic or whatever it is. Or recently a ship just decided to skip our port. Just went to the next one. And okay, great, thanks. Just ahead of Black Friday, awesome. And that's so out of our control. Yeah. But I think as a team, we really try to focus on like, what can we control and what can we not control, and how do we plan for the things we can't control? And that mentality allows you to kind of maintain an emotional distance that I think enables you to be quite clinical about how you plan, but not wrap up your anxiety in things you can't control.
It's quite funny. We always play a little bit of a game between the two teams, or I mean, it's one team, but between Morgan's operations team and my growth team, that they try to forecast, and I try to beat that forecast.
She always tries to break the model.
I always try to break the model, exactly. So when they plan for like 15-20% month-over-month growth, this month I'm like, okay, we got this. Let's do 40. Then they're scrambling in the back trying to keep up. But that's kind of how we keep ourselves entertained.
Exactly.
And
at the end of the day, we're all very competitive. So
That's fun. Maybe shifting to that a little bit is like, tell me how the company looks like, what the team looks like, how you divide the roles between yourselves.
Yeah, it's interesting. Morgan and I, we obviously have very similar skill sets in that sense. We both come from business backgrounds, but very quickly we kind of found our individual roles within the company. When originally it was only the two of us, we at some point knew we had to divide and conquer and couldn't work on the same tasks all the time. And so what we realized is what Morgan gets really, really excited is when she's in steel-toed boots and a high-vis vest on the manufacturing line. That's what really gets her going. And I mean, I care, but what I really love is brand building and, community building. I love consumer brands. I'm all over, the newest launches in the UK, what new consumer brands are out there. I follow everyone very closely. And I just love building beautiful brands that resonate with people, where people fall in love with the brand and a community. And then I also worked in the digital marketing space. And I think it's incredible to see how marketing has evolved and changed over the last 10, 20 years, where you don't really have that regular marketing, so to say, anymore. It's very, very much digitally driven. And actually, when we've spoken a lot about numbers, you think, even though you're a brand builder, at the heart of what I do every single day is stay on top of metrics. Like I know every single metric off the top of my head as of this morning, and that's what I do every single day. And so it has changed quite a bit of how we look at the business. But what has stayed true till today is that we divide between what we call supply, what Morgan does, and demand is my part of the business. And then
That's a
all
cool
of a
division.
sudden, we have a 15 people strong team. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, I don't
We
either.
literally 3x'd our team in the last year, and I'm super excited about it. Morgan and I are obsessed with team building and culture, and one thing that we would never want to sacrifice on is.
What does
is
the team look
having-
like roughly, like in the different roles?
We have a very lean operations team. We
Yeah.
have, I think,
We're 3
4
people in addition to me, so 4 on ops
4 on
and
ops.
customer service.
Exactly, and the rest is a split between a heavy focus on performance marketing and brand building, and also all sorts of like supporting roles, like a fractional CFO, and so on.
That's actually one of the biggest changes to the way we operate over the last 6 months is bringing in a CFO. I think that was a big moment ahead of our last fundraise. We're like, okay, we gotta bring somebody else
clean
in
up
here.
the house.
Yeah, we gotta turn this into a sort of kind of transition from the toddler stage, let's say, on how we operate from a business operations perspective. That's been a huge unlock for us, and just having somebody that can help translate our vision into actual financial operations. And I think Rima and I have a very good sense for numbers and, know how to read financial statements fine, but actually having somebody that can build those models, and we just recognize like that's not our strong suit. So let's just find somebody that is their strength. And that has been a huge unlock for us this year, and being able to scenario plan a lot more effectively. Like, okay, if we go down this route in terms of, I don't know, supplier payment terms or supply chain decisions on where we're going to source containers or bring them into the UK, what does this all mean from a financial perspective? And we can be much more agile and much more real time in terms of knowing that data and following the cash cycle, which is, of course, a huge focus for us.
I think that's been the biggest change in the last years, that we've gone from what initially as a founder you need to do is be super scrappy, very get your hands dirty and do, teach yourself everything that you need to do.
Yep.
And then you build this team and you literally hire people that are way smarter than you. And there is no ego at Peachies. We leave the ego at the door, and we hire people that do an exceptional job and that have so much ownership and treat Peachies as if it was their own, because it is their own. Like, they all have a peach of the slice, what we say.
Yeah.
And it's something that is incredibly important to us, because we're all building this together. And I think as a founder, it's so important to recognize where your limitations are, and also to double down what gives you energy every single day. Because as we said before, it is a marathon and not a sprint. And you got to make sure that you use your energy very wisely, and make sure, to focus on the things that excite you every day. Because we truly believe we only want to run a business where we have fun along the way, and where
it's too hard otherwise.
Yeah.
You're both talking a lot about numbers. What are the main KPIs and metrics that you are tracking every day?
I think the biggest one is LTV to CAC ratio. That is the heart, and that's, so to say, the beating heart of the business, is to make sure that we can pay back our customers in a very short period of time, as opposed to, I think, many other consumer businesses, especially subscription-based businesses, from what we've heard. Some companies don't pay their customers back in a year, and that just makes us incredibly uncomfortable, that thought. And so for us, it's optimizing that ratio.
I'm also obsessed about margin. So, where can we find efficiencies across supply chain to basically give marketing more money to invest in? That's the goal. So where we can really find those efficiencies is something we follow really closely, exactly so that we can maximize that lifetime value.
It all kind of comes back to lifetime value and customer acquisition cost, because what you say around margin feeds back into your lifetime value, right? Or the way how you acquire customers feeds back into your customer acquisition cost. The retention that we're super focused on, that is incredibly important. The loyalty of the customer base, again, comes back into the lifetime value. And so that's kind of, in my perspective, the number that sums up the entire business, because we're subscription-based.
How have the two evolved over time since you launched?
They've actually improved.
Yeah, well, you would hope so. Yeah.
No, there's this, I think, golden ratio in the consumer industry that is like a 3-to-1 LTV CAC ratio. We've always been better than that, and we continue to do so. I think we found incredible ways by doubling down on a strong performance marketing team to find ways to get more and more efficient over time, to spend our money wisely, make sure we're building a profitable company, and being very creative about the way how we run the business and find ways to continue operating in the way we do right now. We would never want to run a business that, is making huge losses or where we don't are not on top of how money moves through the company. That's exactly that transition that we've gone through with hiring a CFO, was to understand, where do we invest our money in? How effective are we at acquiring our customers? And, I know we've spoken really a lot about numbers, but it is, at the end of the day, knowing all of this and having dashboards that just show every single metric on a real-time basis makes your life so much easier as a founder and actually gets you to sleep at night.
I think we do a lot of fine-tuning as well. So starting a consumer brand, particularly on the supply chain side, like there's just setting up, just getting going. And then there's like, okay, now we've 10x or 5x the amount of mailer bags we now purchase. So like, can we do this more cost effectively now? Is this time to change? Can we find another supplier or whatever it may be along the way across packaging or containers? And you get more confident in introducing competition into your supply chain and looking for efficiencies in places you source or partners you use. And I think constantly sort of fine-tuning that, not tinkering for the sake of tinkering, because there is an element, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I think there's always ways that you can continue to kind of find that extra value, and we're always on the hunt for that as well.
What have you found as the most powerful levers so far that have really moved the LTV CAC ratio?
On my side, performance marketing, optimizing for that, we put between 500 and 1,000 creatives live a month. So that means you need the content behind that. You need the variety in creative, literally diversity, testing different fonts, different font sizes, different font colors, different button colors, a slightly different angle of the picture, using AI, optimizing this, working with UGC creators, working with 10 UGC creators, working with 100 UGC creators, finding 10 different hooks to every single video, and, all these things that sound very, very tedious, but actually are super exciting, because all of a sudden you realize, wow, there is this one creative that is completely changing the game that we can invest thousands and thousands of pounds in, and it's still running 5 months later. But it's about understanding what is the best creative at the moment. It's not so much about, because the algorithm and AI are optimizing your channel so much at this point, that the real unlock from a performance marketing perspective is creative diversity and velocity.
On our side, it's customer service, the nappy concierge. I think that's something we knew would be valuable, but probably underestimated its value in providing what we call connection at scale. So how
does it work?
From a setup, you're looking at a kind of, I don't know, probably normal customer service setup. We use tech tools that bring in all the different channels and bring them into one place, and have 2 full-time representatives that manage it. But the way we've integrated not only tools like AI to be able to take some of the volume away from each interaction that requires human connection, but the real magic has been what we call connection at scale. So how do you provide a human touch, even if you're using AI chat functions, for example, and actually being there for what we call nappy wranglers or parents or caregivers along the way, and making sure that they get responses quickly, and that you're there to really help them manage their subscription if they need it, or answer questions, or diagnose any sizing issues or fit issues, or just questions around sizing, and making sure we really prioritize that it's not, you're not waiting 24 hours for a response. Hopefully you're just waiting a few hours.
Or a few seconds
Or
now.
a few seconds now, 16 seconds now, thank you to our new AI integration. So it's also being where parents are. So we always have our design philosophy as a business is to design around a parent's one-handed lifestyle. You're always like wrangling child in one arm and you've got your phone in the other. And so it's how do we optimize for mobile and how do we do those things really intuitively for that subscription management piece or getting in contact. So for example, WhatsApp has been a new launch for us and a huge unlock in terms of how we can be where customers are and really give them the love that they deserve and answer them quickly and diagnose any questions that they have. So that keeping that philosophy at the very core of how we provide service and really trying to have our premium product quality matched with what we call a white glove concierge service has been a major way that we service that retention piece, that LTV piece.
I think it ultimately comes down to making parents feel seen, whether that's customer service, exceptional customer service, or, and I think this is the third part of the equation, what has really transformed the business is the brand side of things. And brand not being, not only being a beautiful font and a beautiful color, but the community we're building of parents and the way how we speak about parenthood in its full spectrum. Of course, parenthood is an incredible life chapter and comes with so many wonderful, incredible, beautiful moments. But then there's also the messy moments. There is the ugly moments and the things that no one really talks about, whether it's leaking boobs or torn vaginas or,
your hair falling out.
Postpartum depression, whatever it is. We find the more we talk about those very raw, candid moments of parenthood, the more parents feel seen. And I think what we've realized is we can be really, really bold. And actually the bolder we are, the more it resonates. So, for example, our recent launch campaign for Peachies pants, Big Pant Energy, I think has transformed how we operate as a business and how confident we are about talking about all these things. And I think the reason why it resonated was because parents felt so seen. We said, yes, you've been in Peachies nappies for a while, but how do you know that it's time to upgrade to Peachies pants?
Yeah.
Well, it's probably when you feel Big Pant energy. And it's that moment where all of a sudden the toothpaste is too spicy or your no is the answer to everything or the cereal all of a sudden is not supposed to touch the milk anymore. Those moments where your toddler develops an opinion and verbalizes all of this and you're like, wait, how did we get to that place? And how am I supposed to deal with all of this? That's what we call Big Pant energy.
That's really cool. The one-handed lifestyle and Big Pant energy. I think I will keep both of those for a long time. You mentioned before that you are thinking of Peachies as a multi-channel brand. How do you think you're going to evolve in that sense and bring that connection to parents if you're going into wholesale, for example?
It's a really good question. I think for us, the main lever or the way that we test is always through direct to consumer. So that's, I guess, because we're a little bit of control freaks, maybe. Trying not to be such perfectionists. But jokes aside, that D2C, that subscription-based business allows us actually the most flexibility in terms of operations. So, we are a UK-based brand right now. Rima and I have the philosophy of double down on what's working. What's working for us is our own channel and is the UK. So we still think we have plenty of headroom of what we can achieve here.
So much.
So much. So
the data speaks for itself.
The data speaks for itself. So we are going to keep focused because actually that's one of the biggest challenges as a founder is staying focused. We both have our little side projects that we're kind of like I'm dying to go to try out a new market and Rima's got ideas around products and we're like, okay, we're going to kind of pursue these quietly in the background until one of us builds a business case and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But actually keeping the team super focused on what the goal or the strategy is for the next year is really important. When we really think about growth of Peachies in sort of three verticals. It's new products or extension to product ranges. It's new markets and it's retail channels or omni-channel. New products, I think we have seen with the launch of pants, how much incremental value it can bring, giving parents more choice, giving them not only more choice, but more options along the parenting journey. That has been a big unlock for us. So we've seen that and we've seen the power of that. And you can actually do that while maintaining other constants, subscription model, and in your own market. So that's a big focus for us. And then there's looking at international markets and how can we plug and play D2C in other places. And then as we build this brand awareness in this really strong subscription-based business, then what does retail look like? And retail offers you a huge amount of headroom, and that's really how we'll punch into the 200+ million pounds in revenue kind of space. But we're very honestly, I think, cynical almost about when that moment happens, because we don't want it to, it's basically operating a new business. So we just want to make sure we have the resources to weather that. But all of those things we see coming into play in the next, 5-year horizon, if not sooner.
What kind of reactions have you seen from competition in this? I mean,
how much time do you have?
We've certainly ruffled some feathers.
I mean, people must notice, right?
Yeah.
I've also seen some of the numbers, and it's very impressive, right? And the brand, and it's like it's really resonating and taking off, right? And I guess that should create some reactions.
Yeah, I think we've definitely received some love,
attention,
love and
attention
from competitors. But I think it just confirms that we're onto something, right? And with everything, we said this before, we're founders, right? Like, our job is to be firefighters and just find new ways of operating. And if someone, tries to slow us down, it just lights a fire under our butt to do it even better and more accurate and just upgrade it more and more. I think one of the recent kind of upgrades we've done is put proof behind our claims. For example, we wanted to make sure we're super, super tight on everything, every single claim we make as a company, because we truly know that we have an exceptional product. We read this in our customer reviews every single day, like longer nights of sleep, fewer changes, fewer laundry loads, all these things we read in customer reviews, but it was hard for us to actually make a claim based on that, because obviously it needs to be validated and you need a certain amount of people that confirm this. And so we did a really exciting exercise and a very exhausting exercise to poll 10% of our customer base. And we got incredible stats out of it. Things like 98% of parents recommend Peachies to a family or friend member.
Jesus.
8 out of 10 parents sleep longer. 9 out of 10 parents experience fewer leaks and blowouts compared to their previous brand. And some of these things, when you see them in a stat, you're like, wow, this is why this is working. You really have an impact in parents' lives.
That was incredibly impressive.
And so I think
those 18 months before launching seem to pay off.
100%. And I think that's how we see these competitor reactions. It's like, well, great, then let's just get better at it, find new ways, be more innovative. Well, this is I think our DNA has found this inherently, is to find new and better ways.
Yeah. So what's next for the company then?
Gosh, so many things.
I know. Global domination. Yeah.
I think I said to Morgan on Sunday, we went to spinning class together.
I know, because we spent 6 days out of 7 together. It's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, it is a little embarrassing. Well, on Sunday we went to spin class, and because we're obviously competitive, so we also like to spin against each other, with each other, and then fist pump each other mid-session. And I said to Morgan, gosh, I'm so excited for Monday. Like, I wish it was Monday already. And I think being able to say this, I mean, I'm grateful every single day that we're running a company where actually you get so excited for Monday that you can almost not hold back. I think this is like one of the biggest joys in my life. And I think it says to me that we've both found our purpose. And we love every single day of this business, even though it's hard at times, but it energizes us so much working with our team and working on something so incredible. But I think it also comes back to the fact that, I don't know, we just love what we do.
Yeah, we're lucky. We're fortunate to have found that, some people search their whole career for that kind of fulfillments, I guess. And it's funny because it's nappies and people are like, as my husband always says to people, he's like, they'll say something, he's like, well, we talk shit all day. It's true. And it's like, but that's like, somehow it like fits our personalities to kind of be in this industry. And, we want to grow. We grew 10x in 2024. We've had a really strong year this year. We're, really got bold plans for 2026, but I know we can do it. Our manufacturer knows we can do it. And I think for us, it's just like focusing on like, how do we keep nappy wranglers happy? And if we focus on that and keep optimizing for that and the one-handed lifestyle and knowing where they are and what their frustrations are, that is kind of really what keeps us focused. And, I'm pregnant with number 2. Our senior brand manager is on maternity leave. We have plenty of parents in our team, but we also have some parent, like our head of growth is not a parent. Rima's not a parent. And that balance actually enables us to like, we're seeing this from the parenting side, or they'll get inspiration from another brand that's doing something, and how those insights come together is what really enables us to stay competitive and ahead of the curve. Create the magic. And we find actually kind of back to your question about, are your competitors noticing you, or not even just competitors, but the more we're divisive in the market a little bit, the more we're comfortable stepping into what we think is our authentic voice and having that confidence to talk about it. And our Valentine's campaign talked about pull-out game. And, that was the first time we kind of really put our heads above the parapet about like, this is us, this is our personality, we're a bit cheeky, we'll tell the kind of like dirty joke a little bit. We got a huge response. And we also got we got some negative responses from, like random Neil on LinkedIn in New York. It's like, mate, you're 50. I'm not designing for you. I don't really care what your perspective is, but that's great. It's great that we're ruffling those feathers, because to be a young, fast growth brand, you have to like kind of knock over the furniture a little bit. Otherwise, we're just playing into what is the original market. We're not actually adding anything new to it. And so I think the more we do that, the more we just see the growth come out of it. And it's just that focus and that confidence to be a little bit, unorthodox.
It all comes back to our core values as a business, which is obsess over quality, be bold, and have fun along the way.
That's like a perfect way to start to round off. But we have always one final question, which is, what is your number one trade secret? A habit, like a decision rule or operating principle or whatever that you rely on the most. And I'd love to ask, what is your number one trade secret?
We have so many.
I know. One thing that's really made a huge difference, or I've really noticed the impact of like, it's who you surround yourself with, whether that's team or advisors or investors, I think is really, really important, because as founders, you definitely don't know it all. Or if you think you know it all, like you are doomed. And I think the more we hire brilliant people, or people that have been in big brands like Estrid or Peloton or Lick, and bringing those people around us, or investors that have been around all sorts of types of businesses, but also in the consumer space, that give us the creative freedom to build on our vision and not like stare at us through a microscope. Those relationships and the people that like give you energy and lift you up and want you to just keep going, I think not only gets us excited about showing up to work every day, but gives you that trust to be able to be like, okay, this is our plan. Let's tell everybody about it and let's like move all boats forward. And I think those human relationships in an age of technology and digital marketing and, tech tools galore is actually fundamental to being able to deliver or grow a business. So for me, it's the human side actually, and being really discerning about who you pick for your team and who you pick for investors. We always say fundraising is like dating, like don't convince somebody to fall in love with you. It's like there's either chemistry and like alignment or there's not. And if there's not, like sayonara. And like, let's not waste our energy here. And I think that kind of goes across the board. It's like being really selective about those human relationships.
And Rima?
Mine is sexy indifference.
Yes, good one. This is our other one, yeah.
This is another big one that we believe in. So I think especially as a female founder, you feel like you have to prove yourself so much more and have to be so much sharper in your numbers and kind of give an explanation for every single bit you're doing. I think we've seen this very much in the fundraising process. And we've, as you said, weaved out these people that questioned us all the time and doubted us and want additional proof and additional, do you think you can actually do this? And I think it was part of this. And, I think it's important to mention I started Peachies when I was 23 years
Yes.
old, I think. Yeah. So
I have distinctly more gray hair.
Where?
I was
Don't
incredibly young and had no idea about business building, but also I think little idea yet about who I was and what my voice was, and that I have a right to be in the room and have a voice and have a right to be heard and say my opinion. And I think as part of kind of grow, I've really seen myself grow with the business and get that confidence in myself. And one of the big things to come back to sexy indifference has been that. And sexy indifference literally is a little bit like not giving a fuck.
Yeah.
It's like
Owning the silence.
owning
and
the
like,
silence.
say your piece.
Exactly. Yeah. It's own the silence a bit longer in the room. Just believe that you can do it and you literally can. Like, we're true believers in manifestation, and this might sound a little spiritual. We are.
We are.
You have, I think you have to be as a founder, because you built something that no one else can see yet. So you really have to believe in that vision of yourself. And for me, it's been sex indifference and doubling down on that and believing that I can do it before actually being able to do it.
It's a great way to end. I mean, you've both truly earned that voice, that's for sure. It's extremely impressive what you're doing, really inspiring. Where can people find out more and follow the journey?
On our website, www.wearepeachies.com, or at wearepeachies on Instagram.
Or Rima's LinkedIn. Because bless her, she's doing a great job on it. That's great for the business insights, though, in terms of like our journey of building it. Yeah. So also LinkedIn.
That's perfect. And to anyone listening, thank you so much. Please hit subscribe, come back with feedback and suggestions. Looking forward to the next time. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you for having us.